Howdy everyone. Now I am working on more of the front end of the fuselage, and I'm just putting in some miscellaneous cover plates and things like that. The stuff up here in the front mostly gets screwed in place because the panels need to be removable to get to various items that are going to be put in behind them. So what I've done so far, I've installed these two corner brackets. Those get held with bolts through the wing spar, and then the 5 bolts that you see coming through the side, one on each corner. And I'll show you real quick. So there's just through bolts that go in from the outside. So here are the 5 bolts on the outside. And what I had done to help position these, I had the bracket in place, and then I went ahead and I ran a couple of bolts through the spar into the bracket and put some nuts on it to hold it in place. And then I went ahead and drilled the 5 bolts through the skin and into the bracket to mark the bracket, and then took the bracket out and drilled it. So that's pretty straightforward stuff. Next up, I'm fitting these front panels that you see here. This front panel, there are 2 of them. Of course, there's another one on this side. And again, these are pretty straightforward, except for on the corner, the top corner here, there's a nut plate. These top skins here, these seat skins or floor skins, these fit over top of this front skin. However, you need to transfer the whole of that nut plate into this floor skin. So this nut plate hole here has to be transferred into this, because ultimately this is going to go over top, and then you will run a screw through this into this nut plate. So what I recommend you do is this. Since these are held on with screws, they move all over the place. If you try to put a cleco in here that's big enough for the hole, it won't fit through the underlying nut plate. So you have to use the copper colored number 30 clecos, because those will actually grab the nut plate that's underneath. However, they're smaller than the hole, and you're still going to have movement. So here's what I recommend you do. The nut plate that you want to capture is over here in the corner of this. So what I had done, I went through and I put some screws in. I didn't tighten them all the way down. I just put them into the hole, into the nut plate at various locations. And what that does, that orients this skin from moving. It basically prevents it from moving because you're using screws in those holes so that it can't move this way. All right. And then over here in the corner where you have to drill the hole, in this corner here, you don't want the skin to be able to lift up. So I put screws in a couple places to hold it from shifting around this way, and then in this corner and here I put the copper clecos to hold it down. And then I did the same thing with this panel. I put in a couple of screws to hold it from shifting, and then I just put in screws to hold it from shifting around, and then I just kind of pressed it up against this and transferred the single hole. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So again, the screws prevent this skin from shifting around, and the couple of clecos here hold it down so you can get this hole drilled through it. And like I said, ultimately this fits over top of this when you put it in place for the final time. So at this point, I've got this front skin here finished, and I've got the nut plate installed. I've got this plate over here, which you don't see because it's on the workbench. That one I just finished, and it has the nut plate. I had to open up the holes, so there's a hole there to clear the angle, and there's a hole there to clear the angle. I had to open them up a little bit because they rubbed. on both of them. I had to open them up. And that was it. So now at this point, there's another bracket. So on these front pieces here that I'm working on, they get screwed to this angle, they get screwed to this angle, but there's nothing on this side. You have to fabricate an angle that goes in here, a piece of angle that goes in this corner to hold this end. And then you can go ahead and install the plate. And then you put, again, you put this floor over top of it and then come through with a screw, and that screw goes into the nut plate on the back side. So that's what I'm working on now. I have to start on those angle pieces that go down in the corners to hold the very ends of these front plates. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.